Hello everybody, this is Matthew from StrategyGamecast.com bringing you another shoutcast for Starcraft 2 beta. This one I'm going to depart a little from the normal way of doing a battle report or a gamecast. And what I want to do instead is create a series of videos that show you various units and how they work really well to counter other units. So I'm not necessarily going to be finding the best games, but more just games that really show a good use of a certain unit. And this video is going to showcase the Zerg Infestors, which a lot of people already know how to use pretty well, but I want to show you how this player used them. Actually, we have Red Terran here played by Jonoman. This is on Lost Temple. And up at the 12 o'clock position we have Dawn playing as the Blue Zerg. And right now they're just doing their typical build order with the Zerg doing the extractor trick to get the 11th drone before the next overlord. And all that trick is, for people that don't know what that is when you get to max supply, which is 10, you build an extractor and that brings you down to 9, and you build another drone, and the moment you start building that drone you cancel that extractor. So you should save up 100 minerals to do it so that you can do it all at once. You put the extractor on, build the drone, cancel it, you have 11 drones. So it's a little trick. I'm not quite sure of its effectiveness. I don't even bother to do it anymore, and I haven't had too many problems. So anyways, as I said, this is going to be showcasing the use of Infestors. So we have Blue Zerg at the 12 o'clock, we've got Red Terran at the 6 o'clock position at the bottom here on Lost Temple, which is a 4-player map. So the players don't know at first where each other is, although the Blue Zerg has already tried to scout out this one. Right now Don said, I've been trying to use Infestors too much, I think, which is kind of ironic because he uses them even more in this game. And I love them though, as you're going to see why he loves them. Now in this case, you have to understand that there's never a unit that is perfect as a counter to another race. Like if you're a Terran and you're playing against Zerg, there's not one thing you should do. Or if you're Zerg against Terran, there isn't one thing you should do. You really have to see what your opponent does, which is why scouting is such an important part of StarCraft 2. It was also an important part of StarCraft 1 as well. So you're going to see in this particular case the use of Infestors worked really well because of what Red Terran does. And I'm not going to tell you what he does, I'm just going to let you watch and see his build and everything that he does. Right now he's got a barracks up and he's now working on a factory. And he's walling in here with the barracks and the factory. As most people understand, you need to do that now if you're Terran. Otherwise, a Zerg can just use Banelings to knock down the front door. Now they're still using the supply depots here, so Banelings could easily explode here, get rid of the supply depot, and then Speedlings could just run in there and wreak havoc. But it is good at least that he's starting to wall off with these units. So we got a factory on the way, and we've got 2 gas already being mined from. So you can see that obviously he's going for something that's going to be a gas-heavy build. And the Zerg, on the other hand, have done the typical fast expand where you get your spawning pool and your hatchery. I'm not quite sure. I wasn't watching to see at what points he did both of them. But normally what you do is you get your spawning pool at 14 supplies. In other words, once you have 14 drones. And then you get your hatchery once you get up to 16. Now, nothing is set in stone. You can modify that if you like. But that is a typical build order for the Zerg fast expand. And so here, let's see, the Zerg do know now where the Terran are, but they can't really see into the base. We have a factory with a tech lab being added on to the factory. And we have, let's see, what else? We got a supply depot and a starport and an armory. So you can probably guess, if you are somewhat experienced in StarCraft, what this person is going for. The armory is a dead giveaway, and that since he built a tech lab on the factory, he is now able to build the almighty Thor. And there we go, we have now 1 Thor in production. And then over here at the starport, he's going to save up 100 gas, and then he's going to buy a medevac. And then he's going to be able to use that medevac to walk around with that Thor, or fly around with that Thor, and drop it and do harassment. So we're going to watch to see how the Zerg player responds to that. He's already got a Spire on the way, and he's already upgraded to a Lair, so he's teching up quite nicely. And we've got 2 spine crawlers here just to protect from any harassment. And he's now throwing, Red Terran is now throwing down a bunker right there, which is a nice protective area because units have to run through here and they get shot down by that bunker. So we see the medevac is on the way, and the Thor is already in place. So you can see the medevac is going right to the same place, and immediately you're going to see Jonoman get ready to pick up that. Look at that. That's an awesome thing right there. You see that Thor get picked up by that medevac. So now he is flying straight towards the Zerg base, And the Zerg player just grabbed that Zelnaga tower, so he should see this coming without any problem and get ready to defend against it. So this is where he throws down the infestation pit. I'm not sure if he threw it down as a response to seeing that Thor dropship or Thor medevac drop, or if it was more just because that was going to be his build anyways. And right there, the Thor gets dropped at the very top here, takes out 2 drones, and now proceeds to completely destroy that extractor. Thor is incredibly strong. And so now the Zerg player is going to want to keep his drones on this side because the range right there is not quite high enough. So the Thor is going around and trying to get range on that spine crawler. So right now the infestation pit is now complete. And we see that right now, what is the Zerg player doing? Oh, he drops the Thor, and now the Queens come in and they're going to try to take out that dropship. And then he drops the Thor from behind. So this is a really good harassment tool. In the meantime, he has not built any more Thors. Although oh, there we are. Another one right there, and he's got a 3rd one on the way. So he's going very Thor heavy, which will counter a Mutalisk rush quite nicely. And so now this base, you can see that he's completely denied most of the space from being mined from, because if he does mine right there, the Thor's going to be able to do a lot of damage. So he lands and he tries to shoot at that Overlord, picks off a couple more drones, and then here we are. The Infestor takes over the Thor, and the Thor proceeds to blow up the medevac. And the great thing about the Infestor, the Neuroparasite right now, is that once he chooses to use it, it doesn't wear off, just like Jonoman asked. Does that wear off, or what? Nope, it doesn't. At least right now, at this version, it does not wear off. So now he just attacks his own ship and completely destroys that Thor. So that's a great use of an Infestor right there to fend off that really annoying Thor dropship, because he's just going to keep going back and forth and you'll eventually kill it, but in the meantime you suffer lots of losses and you're not mining from your base. So now he's got 4 Infestors, and they all by default right now have Neuroparasite. The latest patch has, I think it's patch 11, has really changed this. Yeah, I think you have to research Neuroparasite, and I believe it costs 100 or it might be 150 energy. I don't have that right in front of me, so I apologize. But it was still the same idea, because all you have to do is research it and then make sure you have enough energy for it. But we wouldn't be able to do it quite as fast here as you're seeing now. But he's walking with just a small group of Zerglings and Roaches, but he can see he had an Overlord right there, so he's able to see that Jonoman is going very Thor heavy. There's 3 Thors there, which would make breaking through this front door very, very difficult, because they are able to just completely punish anything that comes anywhere near them on the ground or in the air, but especially on the ground. So now we're going to watch and see how Don handles this group right here, and you can probably start to guess what he is planning on doing with these Infestors. So he keeps them behind because he wants to make sure they don't get pegged off first. And they're moving up. Nothing's even upgraded for speed. These Zerglings and Roaches are moving slowly. He walks in and zaps 1, 2, 3, 4 Thors. He grabs all 4 of the Thors, which then proceed to quickly destroy Jonoman's base. And at this point, you can see there's no chance. Even Jonoman says, "Wow, that's pretty good, GG." And he just grabs onto those and just completely annihilates his base, takes over his force. So not only he doesn't just destroy his force, he actually converts his force over to his own use and proceeds to completely dominate that game. So this is there's 2 lessons we can learn here, and that is if your opponent goes heavy with large units such as Thors, and now you can even, if it's even air units such as Void Rays or Carriers, you can counter that with Infestors just by Neuroparasiting those units, and it's almost like an instant kill, unless they can manage, of course, to kill your Infestor. It looks pretty cool there with all those things shooting out. I don't think I'd want one of those in my brain. But anyway, he's able to completely counter large ones. This wouldn't work very well in a Marine Marauder army because there wouldn't really be anything they could Neuroparasite with great effect. Like you parasite a Marine or a Marauder, you haven't really taken a lot away from their force. But a Thor, that's a significant investment. The second thing to learn from this is if you're playing against Zerg and you notice that they're going Infestors, then you need to not create the large units because they'll be used against you. You're basically creating units for your opponent, when you see that they're using Infestors. So you have to consider that you need to make sure that what you're creating for him isn't very good. And so you're able to counter that. If you had a Marine and Marauder army right there, those Zerglings weren't fast, the Roaches weren't fast, he would have been able to easily pull it off. Or even if he had tanks, the Infestors might be able to get in there and grab a tank, because they do have a pretty good range, but if you just have 2 or 3 tanks, those Infestors don't last very long, because they only have 90 hit points and 0 armor, so it's really not very hard to kill off an Infestor. So that's just the battle report I wanted to bring you today. Just a really quick one and a really good use of the Infestation Pit and the Infestors, and a really bad use of Thors in this case. That harass could have worked really well if it wasn't for those Infestors. So even with the modifications, or whatever future modifications there are, this can still give you ideas on how you can use the Zerg spellcasters, especially the Infestors. Yeah, this is Matthew again from StrategyGamecast.com, and I am signing off.